Welcome to No Way But North, where we talk about the miracles of recovery and the tools used to achieve them. As always, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with somebody that might get some value out of this episode. I am Cooper Lyons. My sober date is November 27th, 2010. And without further ado, a man that needs no introduction, Big John Meldrum.
That literally was an introduction.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of the
I'm just saying.
irony.
How you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good. Guys, don't forget about those question and answer episodes we got going on now. That phone number is 208-810-2699. Call in, leave us some context about what your situation is. If you want some advice about whether to seek treatment, how to seek treatment, therapy, mental health, any of that stuff that might be going on with you or a loved one, please give us a call. We'd really appreciate it. You can also email us at nowaybutnorth@northpointrecovery.com. See if we can get one more north in there somewhere next episode. All right, I'm just going to jump right into the introduction of our guest, Ro Golden. Thanks for being here. Ro is a mentor, educator, football coach, community, and religious leader in Boise, also known as Taro, but I'm assuming you prefer Ro.
Taro.
Yep. Get it right.
Oh, God, I did so much research. I can't fucked it up doing the name, dude. Ro grew up around gangs and the violence that comes with them in Long Beach, California. Ro attended college and played football first at Long Beach City College, then at University of Montana Western. Ro became such an influence at Montana Western that he became the first student to speak at the baccalaureate graduation ceremony, as well as the first black student to graduate from the university. Since then, Ro's established churches, became the youngest appointed bishop in his church, pursued and achieved a master's in educational leadership from Boise State, go Broncos, coached high school football for the last 19 years, acquired multiple certifications, including a CBRS license, and even received the Teacher of the Year award in 2020. Running out of breath. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Let me add some corrections to that.
Please do.
The first African-American to graduate in the span of 20 years.
Wow, okay.
There are some notable African-Americans. Godfrey Saunders, he's an administrator in Boise, I think Bozeman, Montana. And so, yeah.
No, I appreciate that correction. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. One thing when I was talking to you about what you wanted to talk about, we were on the phone, we were talking about, you wanted to talk about mentorship. And the thing that I noticed was this complete lack of ego. We were talking about specifically somebody that came to our Imagine program that had come from your school. And we weren't able to help him, right? I think your school kind of didn't fail him, but he needed more help than you were able to offer. He needed more help than we were able to offer. That's not what you focused on. You focused on the fact that he went to another facility and he came back and he was a changed man.
Yeah.
And that's what you enjoyed seeing, and that you were just so, I could tell you were excited about it. You were focused on helping him and the fact that he was able to get better. And I think that's rare to find, right? I think even in the treatment and healthcare industry, it can be, and education, it can be, we can get our egos wrapped up in it. About how good we are at helping people, or how good we are at educating. So to see that in you, that's just what I noticed, and it was impressive and admirable. John, I know you got a lot to say about this guy. You and Ro go back a ways.
Be careful.
Nah, Ro's a great guy. I was telling Haley, our producer, before we started, I got a chance to meet Ro about, 5 years ago, almost. Me and Ro were introduced by a mutual friend of ours by the name of Nate Jones. He's a great dude. But Nate was the pastor at the church, and I got to know Ro and his boys. And then the following year, me and Ro got to coach together, and we got to just spend time. And I got to drive him crazy on the sidelines, with my antics and all that. But I mean, we had fun, and always has a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. And I've always looked at Ro as kind of a mentor, whether he knew it or not, but he just really, the way he carries himself and the way he presents himself overall, that's why I was super excited when we could steal him away, bring him to North Point. So, yeah, Ro's the man. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah,
let me go ahead and pump that ego up.
A little bit. Yeah, I like that. He ain't finished yet, is he?
Yeah, I was going to say congrats on joining the Imagine team. I know we're really excited to have you, and congrats to us for getting
I'm excited, man. I'm excited, definitely, man. it's just it's I've been talking about it for the last several weeks, and met with my former principal Donnell, and he's not happy about it, but he's excited for me, and so I'm just excited to be a part of the team. And Meldrum, coaching football for as long as I have, you're on certain teams, and if you don't have certain personalities to mesh with and have a good time, it just becomes monotonous in a job. And so Meldrum, I was telling my buddy Ike Johnson, I was telling him about you years ago. I was like, man, I'm having a good time, because we had great times coaching. And so
probably too much fun times.
Yeah, and Meldrum is Meldrum is ridiculous sometimes. I got stories I can tell you, but I'm not going to go there right now. But
I will wait till the cameras.
But no, I had a great time coaching with Meldrum. It was awesome.
I'm glad that I wasn't on that team, because you guys would tore me apart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we cut up a lot. I mean, and we'll keep it professional.
I appreciate it. So, like I talked about, we want to talk about some mentorship, because that's really a passion of yours, right? Like it sounds like in almost every avenue of your life, whether that's coworker relationship or coaching or ministry or work, you are seeking to be a mentor to young men specifically who need it. Yeah. I know that we want to talk a little bit about the CBRS certification. I know that's a pretty big deal from what I've heard. So just talk to us kind of about what that is, what that means, what you can do with that certification, how you got it, what went into it, that kind of stuff.
CBRS it's simply mental health facilities. In order to do the job, formerly called PSR, psychosocial rehab, now it's called CBRS, community-based rehab services, and it's just a certification that you get to allow you to do rehab services to adults and adolescents, and just teach those social skills, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's something that a lot of athletes get into. In fact, the last agency, there's probably about, quite a few guys that work there. A lot of athletes work there and whatnot, because it's an easy shift to go to that field. So I did that 17 years off and on.
I was a CBRS worker before I came to North Point.
Okay. You have anything to add to it?
I mean,
that sounded like a pretty
it's I was an athlete. When I left the prison system, that was kind of my introduction into social work to an extent. I mean, it's just I worked more primarily with adults with like mental health disorders like schizophrenia and stuff like that. Yeah.
So
and is it just getting them attached or connected with the services they need? Is it providing those services? Is it both?
It's kind of both. It's teaching living skills, community living skills. For the reason why a lot of agencies would recruit athletes is because we have an ability to bring the real world into real life and make it applicable. So I'm out with a kid, I pick up a kid or an adult. My niche was schizophrenics. I loved working with schizophrenics because I can be real with them, I can talk to them, and I can joke with them where they might be offended if you say it, but because of the relationship, which is a key mentor word, because of the relationship, I can get away with saying a lot of things. Like, had this guy call me one day, I'm at practice, and he's like, there's the FBI's outside my house, they're watching me. I was like, well, what are you selling? Nothing. What have you sold in the last 2-3 years? Nothing. Well, they're not watching you. You're not important. Let me finish practice and I'll come over. Oh, okay, Ro, I guess you're right. It's real life therapy.
So I mean, it sounds like being a mentor, right? Like It sounds like a licensed mentorship.
I believe if you do it right, yes.
Yeah. So talk to me about like what makes a mentor a good one. What is a mentor? What's mentorship? The process of mentoring somebody. What does that mean to you?
Well, to me, I learned a lot the last 4 years at Central Academy, being a mentor teacher, and I had we had at-risk kids, and I had the at-risk class in the at-risk school. And so they nicknamed my class, not me, but the staff, nicknamed my class The Yard. And the other nickname was Death Row. And so...
How do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm a fan of Death Row, so it's Death Row Records,
Yeah.
Suge Knight.
Suge Knight, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So no, I think the key to being a mentor, I think one of the most important things about being a mentor is being vulnerable and authentic. a lot of times it's difficult for people to dive into mentorship because they're afraid to be vulnerable and afraid to be authentic. And so if you're going to be a mentor, you cannot focus on fixing other people. You have to focus on fixing you. And if you focus on fixing you, the people or the crowd or the population that you mentor, they see that. And when they see that, it's easier for them to embrace their own change because they see that you're modeling. Because a mentor is simply a model. You don't point and say, go over here, do this, that, and the other. You model it, you demonstrate it, and you model it. So as I model my own authenticity at the school the last 4 years, as I modeled my own vulnerability, being honest, I don't know how to do this, or I'm frustrated, or I'm outside of my comfort zone, as they say, embracing the things that suck. As I did that and became comfortable with being uncomfortable, then the kids had no choice but to follow. And when they became uncomfortable, they knew that I'd already went down that road ahead of them. And so I think the key to being a mentor is to being vulnerable. And believe it or not, my experience in the school and elsewhere is most adults, most people don't want to go that route. They don't want to, and so that's why it's difficult for them to mentor. And so now you get someone telling you what to do, but no one's listening because they don't respect your grind because you haven't been through anything.
Or they haven't seen it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so it sounds like you have to also be extremely self-aware and confident in who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to, because if you don't, then you're trying to do kind of what you're talking about, tell and be impressive and be an authority figure and not be equals almost.
Right.
Like I've been where you're at. Right. That's what you're communicating.
Yeah.
Is that I've been where you're at, and you can be vulnerable and you can go through struggles and come out stronger without having to be, violent or, lash out emotionally or verbally or any of those things.
Right. And I always tell people, I'm confident. I know who I am and I know who I'm not.
Yeah.
And equally or just as important. I don't have to be, John Meldrum. I could be myself. But if we work together, there's some things that John Meldrum does that I can benefit from. And if he's authentic and vulnerable, he'll share that with me without hesitation, and vice versa. Yep. So now the two of us together, we're unstoppable. And so I think that's mentorship.
Yeah. And so talk to me about and you started to touch on this, so I just want to go further down that road, is like, what is a mentor's job versus what isn't? You talked about modeling, right? Not saying, go do this.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between, I don't know, like I'm thinking mentor versus a 12-step sponsor, or mentor versus a manager, or mentor versus a teacher, right?
Yeah, mentor. So if I can, hope I don't mess this up as I try to explain it this way. I usually demonstrate this on paper, but a mentor is this in a nutshell. I do, you watch. I do, you help. You do, I help. You do, I watch. You do, somebody else watches. So there's a process that we go through as a mentor that there's a constant transition. It's never a point where I'm going to do this for you forever. And at some point, there's a life application that has to be applied. A mentor is somebody that's taken someone that's following them, so I'm going to tell you, follow in my footsteps. I'm going to leave a space here. And another important part of mentor, which I touched on earlier about being authentic and vulnerable, is I'm going to make a mistake as the mentor. It's not that I have to be perfect, but when I make the mistake as a mentor, I can say, hey, watch this. Watch how rebound does. Watch how I get back up. Watch how forgiveness works. And then I bounce back up, because that's still part of the process.
Yeah, totally.
And if you don't demonstrate that part, then you have this mentorship idea that you have to have perfection. And when you're trying to push people towards perfection, you lose them and they go crazy, because there's no such thing.
Yep.
And so yeah, it's a process where a life application is taking place, and the whole point of you following me is to get you to run ahead, because you may have a skill set that is beyond my expertise. But as I develop you to this point, you're going to take off and run, and the
Leave me
next
in the
person,
dust.
yeah,
Yeah.
the next person is going to take over, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah, it's a job. I was just on the way over here. I'm mentoring a young man.
I was going to say, can you give us an example?
Yeah, so I mentor a young man. So this is switching gears, switching lanes, crosswalking to church. This young man called me. He have a website or Facebook thing that I do every Sunday, and he happened to see it. I'd never met him, but he knows someone, Mother Sherry. He knows someone in the church, one of the older mothers in the church, and he saw me on Facebook one day down by the river talking, and he tuned in, got my number from her, and so he says, "Man, I want you to baptize me in the river, in the real river." Now, I'm from Long Beach, California, and so we can go to the pool, we can go to the church. You know what I'm saying? He said, "I want to do it in the river." So I said, "All right, I'll do it in the river." He said, "I want you to do my sister and my cousin." There was like 12, 15 people out there we ended up baptizing. And the people that were out there are like ex-cons, gangsters, and it's my world. I'm like, I'm loving this, and I'm baptizing this, that, and the other. Well, fast forward about 6 months, he's calling me. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm going to baptize this guy, at the church, and I want you to come and be a part of it. I want you to come and witness it." And, selfishly, I'm like, "Oh, man, I don't know if I can make it, man. I'm trying to get a tea time, and so got myself out of the way. I said, you know what? I baptized this guy. He's baptizing somebody. He wants me to come watch. It's exactly what we model.
Yep.
I need to be there." And I was there, and it was amazing. And that's what it's all about. It's about him turning around and doing that to somebody else. And that goes with football, that goes with work, that goes with education. Whatever the case, it crosswalks into all types of life when you talk about mentorship.
Yeah, it's that old Mother Teresa quote, right? Of the ripples going out and affecting one good
Right,
action.
right.
You go further, and you'll never know how far that good action can carry on, right? That went to
Exactly.
his family, and then they went into their jobs, and so on, so on. So that's great. You have anything in regards to that?
No, I mean,
I feel like I you know him, so
yeah,
I
I
feel like
know.
I've taken up all the.
Row. No, it's I've like I said, I've gotten a chance to witness Roe, and when I first met Roe, 5 years ago, I was in a pretty rough spot in life, and I remember sitting there, and the gentleman I told you guys about, Nate Jones, had kind of coerced me into coming to church one day, and I was like, I'm not really. I was raised LDS, and I never really stepped out of that bubble. And I remember I show up, and here's Roe, and he just has this like presence about him. And I remember that was one of the things that like drew me to Roe in the first place. And hindsight looking back, you look at people that influence you for the better in life. They just have that appeal. Right off the bat when you meet them, and I've got to listen to Roe talk and teach and educate and work in the church and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things where when you have a good mentor, they naturally motivate you to want to be more successful than what you are. I've gotten the opportunity to mentor athletes in different states and different high schools in different states and different colleges, based off of my struggles and stuff that I've, had to work through with my stories, with my mental health and stuff like that. So, it's important to really live that model. And when you're struggling, admitting that you're struggling, having that aspect of vulnerability is a huge key. I'm not always good or on point, but if I'm in a negative spot or I don't have the answers, then I need to work to get better so that I can continue to provide that mentorship, because not everybody can be a mentor. I think we've seen that within our lives. We have people that claim to be mentors, and you're like, you shouldn't be helping anybody whatsoever. But when you have that ability to like really grab somebody and work with somebody, whether it's at work or in your home life or personal life or wherever, within the ministry or whatever, it's a true gift. And if you're good at it and you can navigate it, you can really reach and touch a lot of people in a positive way. So it's just, it's something that I think is super important. And when you have somebody like Roe that's really natural at it, it's something that will just boost everybody around you.
Yeah, and so don't be wrong, I know that you're a great mentor, but what are some of the challenges that you faced? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like when it comes to dealing with with like the kids at your school, right? There has to be challenges.
Oh, it's definitely.
Get them to follow rules, right? Like all of that stuff. I know it's not always easy, or even with like with mental health specifically, right? You're coming in to imagine that is mental health focused. You've dealt with schizophrenia before, oppositional defiance disorder, right? All that stuff has to throw a lot of different wrenches into it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's a topic that we talk about all the time because that's the vulnerability part and the authenticity part. We used at Central Academy. We used a program called restorative. It's kind of like the restorative justice, and so I got trained in some restorative processes. Where what I love about the restorative process is after a blow up, I get to talk to the kid and say, "Hey, okay, what happened? What were you thinking? Let's talk about that." And how can we make this right? I've always been a component of don't come to my classroom after you've cussed everybody out and stormed out and come in the next day and sit down like nothing happened. Now that's some bull crap. We're gonna talk about this because you don't just get to come in. We got to fix this. But when there's social equity, then I can make a withdrawal from that social equity because I've invested. So Meldrum blows up and storms out of classroom.
As he does.
But we have this equity that we've built, and I've deposited. Meldrum, how you doing, man? You doing all right, man? Listen, I got your back, man. Love you, man. I want you. And over the process of time, when he blows up, I'm going to make a withdrawal on that equity. Yep. Meldrum, what the hell are you doing? Sit down. You know what I'm saying? And I get away with that because there's the equity. And
you
so
put in the time.
I put in the time. And so my struggles, to answer your question, coming from where I come from, man, it's a pride issue. And so it's pride. Yeah. Like, who are you talking to like that? Do you know who the hell you're talking to? I don't, and you kind of get upset and intense. And so I've had to really work hard on being calm and recognizing my own issues to be able to work with a kid and say, hey, or an adult, because in our building it was mostly the adults that was the problems to me, not the kids, because we expect that from the kid. We don't expect it from the adult. And so it's the pride issue and dealing with not taking it personal, I guess, to put it in a short way, not taking the blow-ups personal. Some happened, they got triggered.
Patience.
And it's not at me, it's at the situation, right? And so I've allowed the kids to teach me so much. And so my pride at first is like, I'm the teacher, I'm the educated one, you're just a kid, No, man, these kids taught me so much. I was just having this conversation with our principal the other day. I've learned so much from these 4 years from the kids, and so my pride, putting my pride aside and being humble and learning from them, and then managing my own anger or pride, because you don't get to talk to me any kind of way. But when I build that equity, they understand that, and the kids that I deal with, one of the common thread the common thread that we all have in common when kids that are in my class is respect. Even the ones that come from the street. Nobody needs to teach you respect. You learn that in the streets automatically, because if you don't, you're probably going to lose some teeth. And so you come in with respect. And so that's the thing that I demand. I respect you, you respect me. And from there, that's the launching point. We can go wherever we need to go. And I think the other thing that's really important, and I don't want to forget this, I thought about it earlier, is the notion of love. You got to be able to love people. And when you love people, there's an element, love is the overarching theme, but there's some underarching themes to tie to the notion of loving people, not people that just look like you or sound like you or have the same beliefs that you have, but loving people, people, period. And when you do that, there's a commodity of love called forgiveness, and that's the ultimate superpower. And if you can master that, or at least become efficient in forgiveness and love, you're really unstoppable as a mentor, in my opinion.
So how do you get there, right? Because people that have been hurt, people that have trauma, people that have mental health, or have experienced some real hardships in life, really struggle with that. Right? And I know for me, like, and I'm making assumptions, so correct me if I'm wrong, but like a connection with a higher power has helped me with that greatly. And I'm by no means an expert on forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
I can hold on to a resentment like
Right.
his business,
Yeah.
but it's gotten better, and I have tools that can help me work towards that. And I think a lot of our listeners will know, 12 steps, working on a 4th step, doing amends, taking ownership of my side of the street and my part, and knowing that everybody's just trying to do the best that they can,
Yeah.
right? But I'm curious, coming from your background and your history, what are some things that you've done or that you've helped other people do to get to that point of loving people and having understanding, compassion, and those kinds of things?
Yeah, man. Let me say first that it's I don't believe it's a religious thing. Obviously, we talk about forgiveness. There's a religious connotation to that, and we all understand that and get that for the most part. Yeah. But I think it's a perspective. It's a retrospective. I think it's looking at you. Because I realize, I'm like you, man. I can cut you off. I can cut you off, just not talk to you, and we're good. I don't need to see you no more. But really, if I have a gift to give to the world, and I decide to cut you off, who am I to cheat you out of this gift that was given to me freely, and now I'm going to keep it from you? Shame on me. And so I think it's just reflection. I spend a lot of time in self-reflection, just thinking about how I think, metacognition, and just understanding who I am. And when I understand who I am, then I can be honest with myself. Like, Ro, you acting like a real jerk right now. And you know it, and no, it's me, your other side of your brain and God, and we all know that you're acting like a jerk. And I can say, you know what, I am acting like a jerk. And then I can be honest with myself. Restorative process lets me be honest with myself. I'm mad, I don't want to talk to anybody right now. And the kids will say, okay, I can talk to myself. You know what, I know that I'm acting like a jerk, I know it's not right, but I'm going to stay mad for a couple of days. and I'm going to hold on to it, And they say never go to bed angry. Man, listen, I done hit that pillow many times, just pissed, and woke up the next day like, still mad, but I think I'll get over it today, And so I think it's just being honest with yourself, man. That's
setting that pride aside. You talked about that a lot, and I think that's
the hardest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, especially even like I can pretend to not be prideful, right? But when I have that going on in my head and I'm being selfish and I'm thinking about what I want, what I need, and what I need people to think of me, that makes it real difficult to have that honesty with myself.
I think that's probably been the biggest thing as far as the aspect of pride within the company, is because with the leadership that we have, you don't get a chance to be prideful to a point.
Oh, you're talking about Erica Lopez.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, you get a chance, like,
she knocks you down very
humility is a big part of, like.
Excuse me, y'all name dropping?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm new here. I just got here. I don't have no parts of it. What?
Oh, she knows.
She both said she knows.
She has no.
She does it on purpose.
Yeah. But it's a huge thing because I think pride gets in a way of. If we're talking about mentorship or education or good counseling or good therapy, right? If you're too prideful as a provider, that gets in the way, right? I've seen many of counselors, great counselors, shoot themselves in the foot because they can't admit that they're wrong when they've, given bad advice or interacted with a patient and it didn't go away, or the patient was upset.
Or cross the boundary,
or whatever it may be. One of the best pieces of advice, and Ro, you kind of said this with the kids, is like we expect them to act like it, right? They're the kids, right? We're expecting them to need the guidance and the education and the mentorship. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from a mentor. It says, I was upset one day and I was pissed off, and go figure, right? Because that never happens with me. But I was mad because I couldn't get this patient to do what I wanted them to do. And like I was giving them this and they were just fighting me. And my mentor came in and he told me, he goes, crazy you expect addicts to behave like addicts. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and I sat there.
God damn it.
And I was mad. I was like, yeah, you're right. And so like that piece of advice has stuck with me over my years of working at North Point, is like, the patients are going to, they're going to lie, they're going to manipulate, they're going to do things in this, but like we teach these pro-social behaviors, right? And part of that's modeling that. So if I get frustrated, I get upset, like I have to talk about it. I have to show them that it's okay to be vulnerable. I have to share difficult details if, I've screwed up. If I'm working, whether it's a patient or it's a staff member and I didn't do the best way that I could to help them along within their progress, I have to admit my part in that. And like, that's been the hardest part of taking my pride out of it and being like, all right, you're right. I messed up.
Yeah.
I screwed up.
Yeah.
So I just got like one more thing before we start to wrap it up. Somebody out there that's watching and they either have a kid that's struggling or they're struggling themselves. And I'm curious what both of your answers are for this. Where do you find a mentor? How do you find a mentor? Right. And I think part of that is just keeping an eye out for somebody that you look up to in everyday life. Right.
Yeah.
But somebody that might not be in a place where they're going to great places where there are mentors. My answer would be sponsorship in a 12-step program.
Yeah. I mean, sponsor, 12-step, those things are great. I was always very fortunate with mentors, just kind of came, natural to me because I was an athlete. So like a lot of my mentors early on were like coaches that I developed a really good relationship and gave me guidance and helped me out. But I mean, the biggest thing is like, I got to a point where I would meet people like Ro and like, I saw what they had. We talk about that all the time in meetings, right? Like if you go to a meeting, you're looking for a sponsor, right? You listen and you hear what they have and things you want in life, and then they correspond with what you want. Then you look to them for guidance and sponsorship and whatnot. And so, like, I would say that's the biggest thing is really looking at the positive people in your life that are doing good and, seem like they have things together for the most part. Seem like they have things good together like they're supposed to, but like leaning on that, right? And realistically, mentors come in all different places, right? It doesn't always have to be where you think they would be, like
Or title
or a title, right? It could be a friend or a coworker or a bishop or a pastor or a sponsor or or an educator, whatever it may be. There's so many different avenues for finding mentorship to help you navigate difficult things and be able to process with and talk to.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think every teacher at one point was a student. Every father at one point was a son. And I think the key component to mentoring is understanding the need for relationship. I have 3 mentors right now in my life. I believe that it's important for everyone to have someone in their lives that can tell them no. If you don't have anybody in your life, and I'm not talking about a spouse either. You
better watch out.
No, because they're going to tell you no regardless. But you need to have, every person needs to have someone in their life that can really tell them no, that can get in their face. And I always say that has given them the authority to speak truth into their lives. Everybody has to have that. In fact, for me, if I'm going to follow you, I want to see who you're following. If you don't have anybody, then I really can't trust you because you have nothing to help guide you.
Yep.
And so I get approached all the time about mentoring. Somebody will call and say, hey, could you talk to my son and this, that, and the other. And I'm always willing to talk to anybody. But when you step into mentorship, this is what I say. I said, it's really not fair for you to expect me to come and talk to your kid or your nephew or whatever the case is, and I have no relationship with him. It's just going to be good stuff that I tell him or her, but it's not something that I can that they can bank on because we don't have that relationship. And we got to get together and I got to model some things, and that's a long drawn out process, and it's an ugly process. Because if I'm going to mentor you, that means I'm there with the good and the bad. And it's just not all peaches and cream and fuzzy stories and certificates. It's sometimes it's a late night call and you're just as ugly and we got to go at it and I got to confront you and that's mentorship. And so I think that when you understand what a mentor is, I do agree with Jon too that I think sometimes I think it's organic. I think they happen. I think they come in your circle, and no matter what level, whether it's clinical, whether it's relational, whether it's religious, whether it's athletic, they happen, and you just have to be able to recognize who and where they are. And so,
beautiful. One thing we always try to end a note on is what's a piece of advice, a piece of wisdom you live your life by, something you just want to leave us with, leave our audience with, just something good you want to put out into the world that you want people to know or be aware of or try to do more of.
Shake hands and come out loving.
Beautiful. Short and sweet. I love it. Perfect. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. That's all we got. Again, don't forget to give us those calls. Leave your questions with your details, 208-810-2699. I'm getting it. I'm remembering it. We got our email at nowwaybutnorth@northpointrecovery.com. Always like, comment, share, send this to somebody that got some value. Ro, thank you for being here, man. We're so excited to have you on our team.
No, it's an honor to be here, man. I'm glad. I'm flattered. Like I'm special.
Yes, you are.
I'm gonna be famous. I want my name on the billboard.
Yeah, you know, there you go. I'm so glad I talked about his lack of ego, dude.
Oh, I thought the camera was off.
All right, guys, we're done. Have a great day.
Cool.
If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please call 208-999-4064. The views and opinions expressed in No Way But North do not reflect those of North Point Recovery or any other institution or organization.